Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. My name is Christy, and I would like to welcome you to the Doylestown Bookshop's virtual event series. We are thrilled to welcome back New York Times bestselling author Maureen Johnson as she discusses her newest book, The Box in the Woods, the fourth book in the Truly Devious series, with the author of Ace of Spades, Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé. Our guests will be in conversation for about 30 minutes. After that, they will take questions from you, the viewers. If you would like to submit a question, please click on Ask a Question on your screen and enter your question there. If you're on a phone or tablet, click the icon with the question mark to submit your questions. Maureen Johnson is the best-selling author of several novels, including 13 Little Blue Envelopes, the Truly Devious series, the Sweet Scarlet series, and the Shades of London series. She has also written collaborative works such as Let It Snow with John Green and Lauren Miracle, and The Bane Chronicles with Cassandra Clare and Sarah Reese Brennan. Faridah Àbíké-Íyímídé is the instant New York Times and IndieBound best-selling author of Ace of Spades. She is an avid tea drinker and collector of strange mugs and a recent graduate from a university in the Scottish Highlands where she studied English literature. When she isn't spinning dark tales, Faridah can be found examining the deeper meanings in Disney Channel original movies. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I'm so happy to see you both.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
I'm looking forward to your conversation, and I'll be back on for the Q&A.
I feel like this event was more of a trap that I could get you here.
Thanks for entrapping me.
Yes, because now you're in America. We're slowly like pulling you over to America. Like, come to see us, even virtually. I guess we're ghosts.
I need to come someday again and just visit all the bookshops and just enjoy myself more. Last time I was so overwhelmed because New York is such a big city. And so I was just like, yeah, I enjoyed myself, but I need to come back.
Well, it's a big country, and New York is definitely one of the more frenetic places. All of you in the chat, you can shout out where you're from, and then we can say, something about that place if we know it. It'll be like, I was there once. Are you guys from America? Are you from? Okay, you're from Boston. Hey, Grand Rapids, Arkansas, Boston, New Jersey. Here we go. Represent. San Antonio, beautiful. Is that Montco? Where's Montco?
Anyone from the UK?
Oh, Montco. I think probably Montco. San Francisco, Jacksonville, Florida. You got a bunch of Americans.
That's cool. I'm currently speaking here from London. Maureen, where are you right now?
New York City, baby. New York City, where it's hot.
Oh my God, it's hot here too.
And you guys, you don't like the heat.
Oh, we hate it here. It's the worst. But thank you everyone for coming. I'm so excited to speak today about Maureen's new book, The Box in the Woods. Just to start off, I wanted to talk about standalones versus series. But before I do that, could you just let everybody know like what the book is about and give a quick elevator pitch and let us know how it fits into the larger Truly Devious world?
You are a pro. The Box in the Woods is a standalone mystery featuring Detective Stevie Bell, because I like to write, specifically in the world of mystery, I like to write detective stories. Stevie was established in the Truly Devious trilogy. In this book, it's the summertime. She has resolved the events of the Truly Devious trilogy, and she's without a case, and she's kind of bored, and it's at loose ends. And she gets a note from a man who's purchased a summer camp called Sunny Pines that was formerly called Wonder Falls. That was the series of infamous quadruple murder in 1978 of 4 camp counselors, and it was never solved. And he wants to make a show about it. And since Stevie was sort of temporarily famous for solving a case, he says, come here, you can be counselors, help me solve this case, and we'll, make a thing of it. We'll make a podcast, a show about it. And she would like to work on a case again. So she goes to Barlow Corners, Massachusetts, where Sunny Pines is located, and starts investigating the events of 1978, where the counselors were found in a box in the woods. But events are not as finished as they seem. So that is
That's really, really cool. And have you ever been to camp before?
I went to summer camp, which is a different vibe than sleepover camp. So, day camp, it's like school, but in summer, and you don't learn anything except how to play kickball and drink. Well, do you know what bug juice is?
No.
Okay. Bug juice. Does anyone know what bug juice is here? Is this term still in? Okay, people know what bug juice is. Bug juice, the closest equivalent would be probably squash. So
Okay.
just sort of concentrated, very sweet, sugary juice. It's cheap, and they serve it in camp. You basically make it from concentrate, and I think it's called bug juice because mostly it just attracts bugs. And the flavors are usually red and orange.
Okay,
like,
cool.
They're not actual flavors. It's just like, do you want the red one or the orange one? And basically everyone wants the red one.
Yeah, I feel like that looks tastier to me. I don't know why. But also, I've never been to camp before. And I've always envied like Americans, because I always see it on American TV shows, and they're always going to camp in the summer. And the UK is very boring. So yeah, I never got to experience that life.
What do you normally do in the summertime between the school year?
Well, I think when I was much younger, I would do like reading challenges at the library because I was so cool. And so I would always like just bother the librarians and ask them to give me some type of challenge to complete, or I would just stay at home and watch a lot of TV.
Right. Yeah, that tracks. I mean, we go to camp. There's a lot of time at the library. Because also the libraries are nicely air conditioned, and you can just like crash in the corner for 18 hours and just keep pulling things off the shelf and not have to worry about it. You're just like, I can just sit here and read everything along this particular, and I'll sit in this one beanbag chair that they've got. So, but
Exactly.
Camp is a very regimented, like, you have swimming lessons and free swim, and like, I remember we had things like gymnastics that were a lot of just doing cartwheels, and I was not super good at cartwheels, and I was like, okay, like, and there was always someone who was really good at it. It was like, I do cartwheels on the balance beam. I'm like, oh, great, you're so great. Oh, you can do it on the balance beam. And there was a lot of that. But
I can imagine. Yeah, that age, like when I was younger, I was always trying to find ways to break my legs. So
I've thought about that during deadlines, except my arm.
it's a good excuse.
Yeah, I've definitely, when we're about 1 week away from the book being due, and I've genuinely had this conversation. You could break it's not your dominant wrist. You could break your left wrist, and then you can't really type, and you could do it, or don't break your left. It's not that hard. It's not that hard to do, because I have like my wrists keep breaking. I have these little tiny bird bones just in my wrists. So my wrists like snap fairly easily. And the wheels turn during deadlines. But you faced both deadlines and college deadlines.
Yes, which is very difficult.
How was that? How'd that feel?
It was really weird, because on one hand, I'd have to like be writing fiction, and then I'd have to be analyzing someone else's fiction. And I feel like college often makes people stop loving reading, which is not really my experience. I still liked reading. I didn't read any of the books that looked boring. I kind of only stuck to the things that looked interesting. So yeah, it was very difficult, but I'm just so glad I'm finished.
I have so many. I know you're supposed to be asking me questions, but I got to turn this car around for just 1 second, because I was sent Ace of Spades and asked to read it, and I tore through it, and I loved it. And I have, what made you want to write like specifically a mystery novel? Because it is a kind of school mystery, like straight down the line, which I love. Obviously, is I do that. I do it too.
I just love secrets and like darkness, and I feel like it's just something I like about like storytelling, when you don't know what's going on, and the reader has to like kind of solve something along with the main character. And so I've always been like drawn to that type of story. So I think that's what kind of drew me. Is it similar for you? Like, what drew you into writing mysteries?
Lifelong obsessive mystery reading, just truly, truly obsessive. Anything that I could solve. And it was mystery writing, but it was also word puzzles. Those things where you get the impossible puzzle on a page, and it was like, or one of those things where you had to fill in a grid and figure out like this painting was here and so and the what. Like I always loved those things, but I specifically loved detectives. I was very attached to my detectives.
Mm-hmm.
And my first literary crush was, I've said this many times this week, and it's still, every time I say it, I shake my head. It was not even Hercule Poirot. It was his companion, Hastings. A man famous for doing nothing, just nothing. He doesn't solve anything. He doesn't have any skills. At one point, he goes to Argentina and loses all of his money and then comes back after a while, and that's it. And for some reason, I was like, that's the guy for me, Hastings. But just from the time I had, the first book I ever got that was a full book was a little tiny, they were about this big version of The Hound of the Baskervilles. And I was 4, and I got this little book, and I was just transfixed, basically from that moment on.
I love Sherlock so much.
How did you feel about the series?
So because I haven't read all of the books, I'm not that I didn't care much about the accuracy or the way it's been like translated in that way. But I really like the series. I know that that's kind of, you find people that either hate it or they love it so much. And I watched it kind of after the hype had already died down. So I didn't have any like external voices influencing kind of my thoughts. I just thought it was really cool.
The series, the beginning of it tracks very closely to some stories. They're more adaptations. And then as it goes on, it becomes this very, very different animal by the end, where like by the very, very end, I mean, I have to put up my hand and say that the last couple episodes, I was like, okay, what's happening? What is this? What's happening right now? Please tell me what's happening with this murder mystery house.
Yeah, it's still being like a murder mystery. But I think that's so interesting about adaptations. Like it kind of becomes someone else's kind of interpretation of what they want to say about the book and the story. And I was wondering, like, if there was an adaptation for both, you know, The Box in the Woods and Truly Devious, have you ever thought about kind of things you want to have seen on the screen and any actors that you think would be really cool to portray your characters?
I never, because I used to work in theater and I worked in adaptation, and I never think in terms of actors. And because especially when you write YA, the people who would end up portraying any YA characters are probably actors that you haven't heard of yet, because they are at this moment 13 years old and are just sort of getting into the loop of, you know, nobody heard of Millie Bobby Brown until everybody heard of Millie Bobby Brown because like she had been cast. I think sometimes for Stevie, I think about somebody like her, but you just don't know who would be in it really. But I have thought about it a lot. For a while, I was working on the adaptation, and then I decided that I wasn't going to do it. I was like, I have so many books to write, and I feel like, and then kind of there was a lot happening. I was like, I think I'm going to let someone else do the adaptation. So I'm going to be talking to them soon. Actually, I'm going to find out what they have in mind. But I have actually done some of the work for that, and because you get so much, you both get a lot more time and a lot less time on screen, because they can tell so much just by the picture or a cut. But at the same time, nothing, like you have to really, like, each page really matters. And whereas and when we're writing the book, we can go on forever. It doesn't cost any more or take up any more time for us to do 100 more pages. So we have this luxury of being able to yammer on as much as we want within reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I completely agree. And that's so interesting about like trying to make it yourself. I find it interesting just like how an author would kind of separate themselves from their kind of writer self and their screenwriter self and try and like give the best translation possible. So that's really, really cool. And speaking of just translations of like, storytelling and everything, I wanted to know, especially as someone that is so scared of writing a series, what is it like writing a standalone versus a series? And do you have any preference?
So Truly Devious, there's no such thing as a mystery series, and yet I did a mystery series, fully knowing that you shouldn't probably do a mystery series. I mean, properly told, mysteries should be in one. And then I thought, but what if I broke it into three? Because it was a big, big story that I was trying to tell about these past events. Truly Devious is about Stevie going to a school called Ellingham Academy, where in 1936, a woman and a child were kidnapped and a student was killed. And how this kidnapping, murder, ransom situation was never solved. And it was this big crime of the century. And it was a lot. It was a lot. And I kind of wanted to have these, not quite fake endings, but like kind of semi-solutions that broke up each volume. So volume 1 gets you to a certain point, volume 2, and then volume 3, you get the whole enchilada in volume 3. It meant there was a lot of information for me to deliver in volume 3. So that's just how trilogies are. You get a lot of stuff. From now on, they're going to be standalones, but the book 2 was always hard of a trilogy. Bridging you have to carry the events of 1, give people enough information to get them into 2, because you need them to come from 1 into 2. So you're like, I need to get all these people, and I need to keep them on my bus. Like, do you want to know more? I hope you want to know more, because everybody stay on the bus, stay on the bus, stay on the bus. And then you're only taking them so far in 2, and you're like, stay on the bus, stay on the bus, stay on the bus. And then you'll get to 3. It's hard, but it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It's a way of dealing with when you've got a big thing, like a lot of material. Unless you want your book to be 600 pages long or 700 pages long, which is also a completely valid way. It's a long mystery novel. 700 pages would be a long mystery novel.
I like that though, because I feel like sometimes I read a book and I want to stay with the characters for more, even if it's like going to involve them getting into more trouble. I still want to be in that world. So I find that series, like to read them, it's fun. But as a writer, I'm just like, that's too much work for me. But yeah, and I was wondering, is there any mystery books or shows that kind of inspired both The Box in the Woods and also just generally the Truly Devious series?
I love to read about kind of classic or older crimes. So the events of Truly Devious are very, very loosely based on the Lindbergh baby kidnapping, which took place, I believe, in if it wasn't 36, it's between 35 and 38, but I think it was 36. And structurally, I was sort of thinking about Veronica Mars a little bit, because Veronica Mars is an interesting case. Have you seen Veronica Mars?
I started watching it recently because I was like not of the generation where it came out.
Mm-hmm. It's the first series it's so good. And then you're like, well, how could they do a second series of that? Because they solve the case of the first. But they bring back like another bigger thing that happens. So how you kind of maintain these, because there is the past case of what happens to Lily and all of the cases that she's solving on a day-to-day basis. Also, a book I was obsessed with growing up was called The Westing Game, which is like a classic children's mystery. And so there's a character in it, the detective is named Turtle Wexler. And I was always obsessed with Turtle Wexler. And I don't know if that book is more popular in America, but I feel like that's a kind of standard book. Like it's pretty much a classic here.
I haven't heard of it. I think it must be very American.
Yeah, it might be, but it's really, really good. It was written in the late 70s, but it's surprisingly timeless.
Okay.
Like it doesn't, you don't read it and go like, there's like, they don't have phones or anything, but you know, you read it and you're like, it doesn't seem that far off. But it's about a bunch of people that all come together to live in this place called Sunset Towers. And a millionaire gets them all together and says, you are all my heirs. This is the puzzle. This is a game to figure out which one of you will be my heir. And you have to solve my murder. And here are the puzzle pieces I've left for all of you. And I've put you all into groups of 2, and you have to work together to solve it.
That's cool.
It's really good.
Kind of like Knives Out a bit. Like, it sounds like very interesting because Knives Out was a lot more family based, and I like the fact that like strangers have been like brought together, and it kind of sounds messy to me. So I like that.
And they end up almost becoming family. This group of people that are all deliberately drawn together to move into this building called Sunset Towers. And I was so encouraged when Knives Out came out because as someone who is such an obsessive classic mystery person, it was a sign. I was like, yes, like our moment is here where we're going to get all the things that we want. We're going to get Benoit. Oh God, what was this? It was Benoit. I forget. Does anyone remember the name of the Daniel Craig detective? Was it Benoit somebody?
I do not remember.
I'm so excited they're making another one though.
Have you seen the cast?
Benoit Blanc.
Oh yes. Have you seen the new cast for the second one? Amazing. I'm just like so excited. I'm gonna cancel all plans I have when it comes out and just watch that.
There's so many. And the nice part because the nice and the hard part about mysteries and yours set in school, my first one's set in a school, the second one's in a camp, is that you have to limit the environment because you have to have a cast of countable characters. You have to be able to see like, here are the players. Here, we have to give you enough information about all of them to be able to know, like in order for you to make an educated guess, we have to limit the space and the scope. And for that reason, schools are really useful, which I'm sure you.
Yeah, I love it because it's so contained, and that's why fantasy scares me. But yeah, there could be fantastical mysteries, but tend to be a lot bigger. So
yeah, that's definitely the thing about fantasy is it, in terms of direction, like you tend to go this way with fantasy. Like it's all about new lands, more stuff, people leaving a place to go somewhere else, or, you know, usually, or interacting with other kingdoms, other elves meeting dwarves, you know, etc. Whereas mysteries, you're like, nope, we're going to get you all in this. We're going to put you in a bucket and make you fight. And you shake the bucket and you go, you got to fight in this bucket I made for you. There's 10 of you and only 8 of you. Got bad news for you in the bucket. Only 8 of you making it out alive.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of pop culture, true crime is kind of having a moment right now in like pop culture, especially true crime podcasts. I love them. What are your favorite kind of true crime podcasts if you are a true crime podcast fan?
Let me just reach over here and hold up a pair of headphones that are always near me. Like I have a real problem. I'm always listening to podcasts. And I listen to a lot of true crime ones. I listen to My Favorite Murder.
Mm-hmm.
I listen to Case File. I listen to a lot of ones that are I listen to Jensen and Hole's The Murder Squad, because the book is actually dedicated to Billy Jensen, because he is a kind of citizen detective who has actually helped solve the cases that have not gotten the attention that they needed. Single case ones, like there's one, if you haven't heard it, called In Your Own Backyard.
I haven't heard, no.
What's interesting about In Your Own Backyard is it's about the unsolved murder of a college student in San Luis Obispo, California. And there was this billboard up about her saying, if anyone has information, please call. And this podcaster who made this said, it's been up my whole life, and it bothered me that no one ever seemed to solve it. So he, with no experience, decided to make a podcast about the case. And because of his work, the case gets solved.
Wow.
And an arrest is made because of the podcast. So, yeah, there's a similar one called Teacher's Pet that's Australian.
Okay.
That also partially led to the case being reopened and I believe charges being filed. So,
I love how podcasts have like kind of been doing that over the years. It feels like fictional that someone would be able to do that without any experience, but I feel like it just takes someone caring enough about a victim to really delve in. I feel like a lot of the time in real life, not every case is given the care and like time it needs. So it's almost like really nice, even though it's also like kind of a hobby for people that like creepy things to listen to. It's also nice that these things are happening anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be creepy, as we are, let's use it for good. Let's use it to actually. Well, I also think that because I grew up reading stories about people who were detectives, amateurs who wanted to solve cases, it's much more realistic now than it ever was before, I think, because we have a lot more information. So people hear about the cases. It's easier to exchange information with or between other people, to reach them and find them and talk to them, and also to do research. I think, for example, I'll Be Gone in the Dark, which is a very famous book and podcast here about the Golden State Killer. Someone volunteered to be part of the team who did things like, I believe, digitize and go through every single Florida phone book or something like that. Like people just volunteered their time to do this intellectual labor that there was nobody to do before. Like,
Yeah.
would you mind sitting here for 12 hours a day going through phone books from the past? And they're like, okay, sure. One of the cool trends now, I think, is retirees are doing it sometimes. Like when they're like, yeah, we'll help you, find the murderer. I want to help find the murderer.
Me too.
Yeah. Do you want to open up a crime investigation agency?
That'd be so cool. I don't know what it would be called, but I would like be so down for that. I've got so much free time now that I'm finished with university. So
I'm sorry, you're only finished university and you're like, I'm going to instantly now be an author. There's usually more of a gap, but you're like, I'm closing that gap. I'm just going to close that up.
It's very strange.
What made you start writing your novel in university?
So I've got this like really like big fear of like waking up one day and I'm like retired and I have so many regrets. And so when I was like 17, I was like, okay, like because I grew up working class as well, I knew that I had to have a career that would not make me continue struggling in life. So I was like, okay, you have the whole of your university life to try and like test out some dreams you have. And so I just like was so motivated to just finish writing a book in university, even if nothing happened with it. I just wanted to know that I tried. So yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
That's amazing.
Thank you.
So you were up in Scotland. You were in Aberdeen, Scotland at university. Do you live in the city then?
Yes, the main like city.
And so did you just then end up using all of your free time?
Yeah, I don't really have a social life because the drinking culture in Scotland is really, really
intense.
It's intense. Like even people that do drink, because I don't drink, I'm a Muslim, but people that do drink in general, they say that it's intense for them even. So I was often left out of events and stuff because people didn't want to make me uncomfortable. And so I was just in my room until like 4 a.m. working.
And Scottish nights, like during the school year, during the winter, they come early.
Yes. Yeah.
Woo, do they come early? I have a hard time with that. I have like seasonal issues where I'm like, for me, the sun should set ideally at, I don't know, 9, 10 p.m. That's about where I like it. This 3 p.m. stuff is like, no.
Scary. You look out and literally it's like just finished, like it's just past lunchtime and it's already getting dark. It's really bad. But in the summer in Scotland, it's like light until midnight.
Yeah, then I'm like 10:04, I'm there.
Yeah.
But Scotland is also a very mysterious kind of, like, it has that, I feel like it has a good mystery air to it. The streets of the cities of Scotland have those kind of winding, like, especially Edinburgh had those like, just, it's very murdery, and it has, you know, like, obviously the Highland area. It's like you could just go out there and just bury all your bodies, and, you know.
I agree. There's a lot of like space, empty space, a lot of like no one really asks questions there either. And yeah, it's really, I don't want to give people ideas, but like, yeah, it's a really good place to commit like a crime and get away with it, I think.
You're like, nobody asks too many questions in Scotland. We're just, it's fine. Like, can you do a good Scottish accent?
Oh, I can't. I feel like I'm gonna like get someone angry because I've been there for 4 years. I can speak like a bit of Doric, which is like the dialect in my area. Like I'll give you one thing. It's like fit like means hello. So people go fit like, and so yeah, that means hi or how are you. I really like the accent and I love everything. Don't want to disrespect them by trying to butcher it, but yeah.
I won a fellowship one in it was quite a while ago now, and I got to spend the entire month of February in a castle at a writer's retreat. And there were 5 people in this castle, and it was outside of Edinburgh, deep in the woods. Deep in the woods. There was no one around. 5 of us knocking around in this castle, and you didn't really talk during the day, and then it gets really, really dark, and then the woods make weird noises at night, like, and you're like, ah, and there were no cell phone or nothing, no television, no internet, nothing, just you going slowly mad in the castle. And it was like, and I just have strong, it was beautiful and it was terrifying. And the first 2 weeks were like a slow psychological devolution of just my brain breaking down and me just, and then after a while you're like, maybe I should always live in the forest and not have any internet and just listen to the, and I got locked in the, they had a dungeon. They had an actual straight up dungeon. And the housekeeper it was where they kept, it was one of the libraries. And I went down in there to get a book, and the housekeeper did not know I was there. And I got locked in the dungeon, and I thought I was going to be in there all night. And then I started pounding on their door like, "Aah!" And they came and they got me out. But yeah, one of the people the first thing he asked for was an axe. It was this journalist guy from the BBC who wore a flak jacket all the time, and he arrived. He's like, "Can I have an axe?" And the caretaker was like, "No problem, dude. Here's your axe." And he's like, 10-4, I got my axe. And every day he went out with the axe for like an hour, and then he came back all smiley. And I was like, that seems fine. And the last day he's like, "Hey, Johnson, you want to go out in the woods with me with my axe?" I'm like, "Sure, I've lived long enough." And then I went out with him, and he's like, "Want to see what I've been doing in the woods with my axe?" I'm like, "Kinda, yes, I do." And it turns out he had been chopping a tree that had fallen across the path, and he was clearing the path. But just so you know, I'm easy to kill. Like, you're like, "Look, hey, Johnson, you want to go in these weird remote woods with me full of caves with my axe that no one knows where you're at?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I got some time. Let's go." Like, so Scotland, it's spooky. You can kill people easily. No one asks too many questions.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm so like excited to see like what you work on next. I hope that you one day set something in Scotland. I feel like you would write something really cool. And just before we move on to questions from the question box, what's next for you in the book world? And yeah, like what would you like? Would you ever write another book set in the same universe as The Box in the Woods? Yeah, let us know.
It's a new Stevie book. I can't say too much more, except that it is going to be set in England.
Oh, cool.
Which I'm excited about. Seriously, though, I just went right into the woods with him. No questions asked.
It's just cracking me up. Oh my gosh. I'm like, don't go into the woods, Maureen.
No, honestly, I just followed him right out. I'm like a trusting 4-year-old. I'm like, okay, like,
No way.
I'll follow anybody anywhere.
I would have like an axe behind me, like this
No.
is fine.
He had the axe in his hand. He's like, I'm just gonna grab my axe and we'll head out into the woods. I was like, cool, let's do it. I'll bring a thermos.
Oh my goodness. Okay. We're moving on to questions. If you have not yet submitted a question and you would like to, click the button on your screen that says Ask a Question. The first question is for Maureen. How do you write a murder mystery? What pieces did you start with, and what did you have to figure out along the way?
I'm also really curious how you answer this as well, because I think we all come to this problem in our own way. I do mysteries. I am very precise. It's all planned. I begin with the crime. I actually begin with the why. Then I go to the how and the who come next. And I plan every single aspect of it. I have to know all of that. And I kind of build from the inside out. So as I put in each character, I work out each one of their lines, motivations, secrets, like how they slot into the events, because you have to know where everybody was. You have to know, because there have to be multiple suspects, but it all has to happen for a reason and make sense. So I build out from there. And so with none of the book part gets written until I've planned it all out.
I'm the same.
Sorry, I had a little lag there. All right, our next question is, and you could both answer this, where do you begin building a mystery? Do you start with the crime and then create the clues, or start with some clues, pieces of the mystery, and create the answer later?
I start with the crime. I start with the crime because the way I imagine it, and every time I try to explain this, I feel like people are like, well, what are you talking about? But I imagine that the crime is a little tiny mechanism. Imagine a little tiny watch. And you're making this little thing that has to run very precisely and well. Because when people plan a crime, they want it to go well. And the clues are the things that don't go well. The clues are the things that kind of fly off. If they're the events of life that you can't control. You can't control that someone walked by the window. You left the footprint. There was a little bit of paper burned in the fireplace, that there was, or that it rained or that it didn't rain, or the events that kind of float around it fly off this little thing. So for me, it always begins with the central event of the crime, and then I build out from there.
For me, it's the same. I always think of something really messed up that can happen in this world, and then I think about how you get there, and I have to plan really, really intricately, because I get scared of plot holes.
Yeah, you can, because you can't fudge mysteries really, because if you try to just put in filler, it could disrupt the whole mechanism.
Mm-hmm.
There's no kind of, finger twiddling, like, now I'm going to put in some random events, because it could throw the whole balance of the whole thing off. Whenever I start talking about mysteries, the arms come out, and then I'm like, this happens, and then it's like this, but then it's like this, and I don't know. I begin to dance. I sort of do Bob Fosse hands after a while. Like, I don't know.
Okay, and then how do you spread clues without giving everything away?
Carefully. That sometimes it's because you only get a couple, and you have to really think about, because they have to make sense usually in order. Sometimes something can't happen, like you have to put something in the first position to make the second one or the third one make sense. Because the first clue you get is always just some object. Just like, I found this, what does it mean? So you have to figure out the context, like the kind of linear context of the clues, and then you can space them out.
Yeah, I'm the same. I feel like I just kind of have to hope that it lands. I don't really know until I speak to people that have read the book, like my editor. And she might be like, "Oh, make this less obvious, or make this subtler." So yeah.
So how do you think Stevie would feel about "I'll Be Gone in the Dark" by Michelle McNamara and the rest of the Golden State Killer?
Oh, 100% would have read it, heard it, listened to it, watched it. That's what she wants to be. She wants to be the person who catches the person who remained uncaught. I mean, the Golden State Killer is one of those true monsters, just an unbelievable, monstrous human being. And someone who just got away with it, and then was like just retired until they rolled up to his front door one day and were like, "We got you." So I think that's the dream, is that I think mysteries in a lot of ways are about making things right and saying, like, things can be righted, things can be worked out. They are the opposite of the chaos engine. If we can't fix it, we can at least put it back into balance.
When you're writing a mystery, do you start with the conclusion and work backwards, or do you weave it along as you go?
You mean like writing I mean, kind of, yes. I actually write something called the solution file, which I keep separate. That's like, here is everything that happened. Here's why it happened and how. Here's the past event. Like, I have a whole document that if I have any questions along the way, I can go back and actually consult my solution file. So that I actually have it. And all of the information in the solution file doesn't make it into the book. It's just that I know exactly. It's like I could hand you a little manila file. It's like, here's everything that happened. Here's all the answers. Here's all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm the same. I've got like a burn book almost, and it has like all the things that no one like needs to know, but I need to know, and I just kind of go back and reference it once in a while. Especially because I forget details because it's such a big book, often like 100,000 words or more. So, yeah.
Yeah, you have to keep a lot of stuff straight.
Mm-hmm.
When you write mysteries, there's a lot of like going through the charts. I also use a lot of maps. I'm very map obsessed. I have to see everything in space. Like, there's a map in Truly Devious, and there's a map in this. There's a map we had a 70s style Camp Wonder Falls map made, because I have to really be able to see in space exactly, where everybody was, where the roads were. I have to be able to picture it really clearly in my head.
Okay, this is for both of you. What is your favorite book to movie adaptation?
It's a good question.
It is a good question. Do you know?
I think mine might be Crazy Rich Asians.
Mine would be because I love mystery so much, mine might be the first season of Sherlock.
Oh, cool.
It fades off a little bit, but I'm very attached to the Poirot series because he was my love.
Mm-hmm.
They tend to be mystery adaptations. Mm-hmm. Also, one thing about mystery adaptations is, how like they can change stuff a lot between books and movies. Well, they often can't do that with mysteries. Like and then there were none. The most recent adaptation that's been done is very faithful, and it's 3 hours long, so you really get the whole thing. And I love it. I love it so much. They've really done a good job with a lot of the new BBC related Agatha Christie adaptations. The Crooked House was great. And then There Were None was great. So because they recently got a lot of her estate became available, they've done just a really beautiful job on a bunch of those.
Okay, and for both of you. Oh, wait a minute. Free to answer that, did she? Oh, yes, she did. Yes, she did. You did. Reserves rich Asians. All right. For both of you, do you prefer true crime shows like documentaries or fictional shows like SVU, Criminal Minds, etc.?
Do you have a preference?
Yeah.
I think I don't. I think I like them for different reasons. And it depends on my mood. Like go to either one for different reasons. So I can't even compare them.
Yeah, they're very different. And so I often think I don't like the fictional ones until I get really hooked. Like British TV Twitter was obsessed with Line of Duty, and I hadn't really seen Line of Duty. And then I watched season 6 of Line of Duty, and I was also like, once I'm in, I can't get out. I have to ride or die with the mystery until the end. I will never ever give up on it, even if I'm like, I don't even like it anymore, but I have to watch all of it. But I did like Line of Duty. It made me very nervous. They have good interrogation scenes.
I don't think I've seen that.
Oh,
Check that out.
It's very tidy. It's those interrogation scenes are very like, and slide 26 and slide 27. American interrogation scenes are like, hey. UK interrogation scenes are like, we have a bunch of neatly organized binders, which we are going to show you in order on the screen in a polite and even tone of voice. And I find it remarkably soothing.
Oh, gosh. And then what are both of your recommendations for other modern mystery stories in either books, movies, or television?
Well, I've been recommending Ace of Spades whenever I get to this question now. So that's been really handy. I'm like, it's just out. You can get it right now. There are, you know what? It's hard. There's so many. And also I've been doing so much classic rereading, like really like all of the British Library re-releases of classic mysteries that sometimes I'm like, I don't know. I've been so busy reading mysteries from 1935 that I can't even remember what I've recently read. The one recent, what was the last kind of modern mystery I've read was probably The Guest List by Lucy Foley. Obviously, Ace of Spades was more recent. Oh, and the one with the purple cover. The mystery with the purple cover. It's a picture.
Searching the files.
It's a picture. It's not mine either. Not mine with the purple color. It's like it's a picture of a stoop in Brooklyn. Everybody knows what this is called. I swear you all know what this is called, and it's just like it's this close to my brain.
Is it Catherine House?
No.
Oh, is it? No,
when no one was watching.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I knew one of you would come through.
I failed as a bookseller.
You can't be expected to remember everything by the color of the cover.
Yeah. I really love so many like mysteries. I mostly read like contemporary YA mysteries. The Truly Devious series is so much fun, especially if you get attached to characters and you really want to stay with them. Another mystery series that I love is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. And I just finished The Ivies by Alexa Dunn, which was really cool. And anything by Tiffany D. Jackson.
Oh, obviously, of course.
Yes.
Tiffany obviously being one of the other big, contemporary mystery writers.
Okay, we have one more question. This is for Maureen. How difficult was it to write The Box in the Woods as you did, not requiring that readers had read Truly Devious? I feel like it is the perfect amount of connected to, but not too connected to the trilogy for all types of readers, and I imagine that it was difficult to do.
This was one of my main questions: is how to create something that can stand completely on its own and yet also be connected to something else. But that is what a lot of detective stories are. Like in theory, you should be able to read a detective story out of order. Like you could pick up book 4 of the something detective series and just totally read it without any problem. And you always know that the person who's read the other books in that series is going to know the detective a little bit better, but There will be no information in those that are required. That's the whole trick, is that there's no required information. This is the person, like, you need to introducing them and their situation is the hardest part. And that you're trying to compress that. You just try to press it as flat as possible. It's like you're making a panini. You're like, I got a lot of sandwich in this little space. But there's never going to be anything in it that, in order to solve the mystery, you would need to get from another book.
Oh, well, I think we have one more. Okay, one more. We'll allow one more. We have time. What would both of your advice be for new writers trying to write mysteries? Any advice for new mystery writers?
You have to really love mysteries. Really loving them is so much a part of it. Like internalizing. You internalize it after a while. You internalize the moves. You know which moves feel right because you've read so many that they're in your brain. Like you know what the reader, like what a mystery reader is looking at and for, because mystery readers read in a very peculiar way where they're picking things apart because they're looking for your moves. Like, why did you tell us that there? You know, you're trying to fool them while they're trying not to be fooled, which is hard.
Yeah, it's very much like chess. And I agree. I think also reading a lot of mysteries and learning kind of the tropes and like how to subvert them, and watching a lot of things to do with mystery and like true crime has always helped me just like understand the structure and just how to leave red herrings and understand just generally how to develop a mystery plot.
It's a great way to justify a lifelong obsession and your habit of listening and watching and reading these things all the time anyway. So it's a really good way of saying, well, I have to do this. I have to. It's required that I listen to all 17 hours of this. It's my job. So it's like, yeah, I recommend it for that reason.
Okay. And that is it for questions. Thank you, everyone watching, for submitting your questions. I appreciate that. There are some really good ones in there. I want to remind everyone, if you wanted to purchase any of Maureen's books, they're available through our website. And I dropped a link to Ace of Spades in the chat if you'd like to check that out and purchase that from us. We have them in both the Doylestown and Alaska bookshops. I'd like to thank both of you for joining us this afternoon. This was awesome. This was really great.
Thank you thank you everybody for coming. Obviously, buy 10 copies of Ace of Spades. That way she will be dragged to America and get to see Times Square a little bit calmer. You can see the front of the M&M store now. That's great. You can get first in line at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, and
there's hope.
We'll be back out. We're almost back out in the world, everybody.
That's right. That's right.
We're
almost back
close.
out. We're almost there. Well, thank you both. Congratulations on both your books. And I wish you continued success, and I hope to see you both when the world opens up again.
Yay. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Good night.